My name is Dustin Beck, and we're here at the third International Pharmaceutical Forum. We're going to have a podcast with a very special guest about biotechnology, pharmaceutical industry as a whole in Uzbekistan and in the world, and what are the current trends and what is the future. Everyone, I have a very important guest, like I said, Professor Sarfaraz Niazi, University of Illinois, resident of Chicago. And so Professor, how are you?
I'm
how
doing
are you
great
liking
being in
Uzbekistan?
Uzbekistan for the first time. And thank you very much for inviting. What a delight it is. Glad to meet you all.
Right, that's great. So could you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background experience, how, why you chose this field, how you entered this field, and what has been your experience in all these years?
Sure. So I began my career teaching pharmacy. I got a PhD in pharmacy and began teaching. And then I realized that, somehow the timing was very unique. I was the youngest professor or teacher there. And so after a few years, I quit that and worked for Abbott Labs as their head of global research.
Okay, Abbott Labs, so they're like a big pharmaceutical company?
Well, that was Abbott was the largest one at that time. Now I've broken up into many.
Oh.
But Abbott had 47 countries they're serving in.
Wow.
So my role was to go around and find out, what do you need? Okay.
Yeah.
And Abbott will then help me get this new product for them, including some of the most redundant product like a mosquito repellent. And then I found out that back in early 90s, that we have discovered that reason we have survived for millions of years, is not because of any medicine we have, any testing we have, or any people even 200 years ago, they also lived to be 80 or 90. So there is a system in the body that makes it, it takes care of, it cures everything. So now that we never knew about it because we didn't have the analytics available to see what is in there. And we found out these are the proteins that we make in the body.
Wow.
Thousands of them every day.
Okay.
Like, I tell you example, like a hormone, that's a protein.
Yes.
For making red blood cell, there's a protein. We still don't know what did these thousands of proteins do. But we did find out that deficiency of any of them produces a disease.
Wow.
Okay. So I think that was the rise of what you call biological medicine. You see, chemical drugs we are able to synthesize.
Okay.
That came from Germany, and everybody was happy with chemical drugs, which replaced most of the anecdotal medicines of plant medicines. But we cannot make biological medicine because they are very, very large, complex molecules, thousands of times larger, and they have a structure which is called three-dimensional structure, which we cannot do. Even today, with all the science and technology, we still cannot synthesize a new protein. It's not possible.
Even now?
Even now.
Okay.
And it would never be because what happens is this, we may synthesize something that may give us a protein structure, but it may not have any value, randomized. So what they do, the reason they call biological, because they're made in a biological entity. Instead of the test tube and chemical lab, they're made in bacteria, in mammalian cells, in fungi, even in plants. They make it there.
Remarkable.
The issue was, how do we manufacture them commercially?
Okay.
Let me give you one good example. Before this process came in, there's a drug called erythropoietin, we knew.
Okay.
When you have a deficiency of it, your blood hematocrit goes down. You become anemic. So the only way to do it is to give you erythropoietin. So they used to collect in the urine, and it will take 40,000 liters to make one dose.
Wow, really?
And now a 20-liter bioreactor can make 10,000 doses within a matter of a week.
Oh, so that's how far we've come.
Yeah, half have become, and it's called recombinant technology,
Okay.
where we take a living entity like a bacteria or mammalian cell, modify its genes, okay, so that when it multiplies, it produces everything it needs for itself, and then a strange compound for it. I don't know where it came from. Okay.
All right.
All right. So sometimes they kick it out, sometimes they're not. So now we have a factory which is producing these biological drugs.
Okay.
Now,
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No.
Is this all part of biotechnology?
Yes.
Can you just like give a brief introduction for those like who are hearing it for the first time? You know?
yeah. So, as the word says, biological technology. This is a very, very old technology.
Okay.
Thousands of years ago, about 7,000 years ago, we began making alcohol. Okay, that happened in where? In Iran first. Okay, they found out if they take the yeast and drop it, they dropped it accidentally in a sugar syrup, and next morning they had a very good tasting sugar syrup, which is also making them happy.
Wow.
That's biotech.
Okay.
Using a biological entity to make a chemical. But we didn't, so that was a simple chemical. Alcohol, no problem. So that industry is still very much thriving, making chemicals by biologics. Okay. But making these proteins, which are called therapeutic proteins, was the challenge because they're very complex, they have to be done correctly. Okay. So biotech simply means is that it's a biological technology, a technology based on biological entities.
All right. Okay. Thank you for the explanation. All right. So, what made you interested in this?
I think once I realized that the pharmacy that we're looking for is in our body, and as long as human beings, Homo sapiens are Homo sapiens, it's not going to change. Okay?
Yeah.
And so I began developing these molecules, the biotech for them, so that we could create them and supply to those who need it very badly. Erythropoietin was one of them. Filgrastim is another one of them. And I realized that this is going to be the future of therapeutics. Okay. Instead of giving a chemical which may have many side effects, biological drugs, okay, don't really have side effects. They may give you one thing which is called immune response, because all proteins are immunogenic. Other than that, okay, these are probably the safest way of treating any disease.
Really?
Absolutely. And now what we're doing now, we are taking it to another high level, is that we're designing them to treat diseases like cancer. Okay. As I said in one of my books, okay, give me 10 or 15 years, okay, we will no longer have cancer.
Oh, you're so sure of that?
You know, because once you know the cause, and you know how to fix it, and that can be matched, what is there left to do?
Wow.
Okay. You know, chemotherapy is like a shotgun.
Yeah.
Biotherapy is like a rifle shot. You only go and shoot what you need to do. So I think this is the big future. I was afraid that, which has proven correct, okay, that the big pharma will jump in, which they did. They will take the IP and make billions and billions, and a good part of the world will be left behind, which is the case today. 80% of the world doesn't have access to biotech products. 80%.
Why is that? Like, isn't the the
Very
developing
good.
countries like
So,
a prime market?
Yeah. So two reasons. Number one, those who own it, okay, are selling at a very high price, which you cannot afford. But the main reason is a lot of developing countries were given an impression that this is a very high tech, and they cannot do it. So they have not established manufacturing. They could have, you know, if they had the better perception. And that is my goal. I wrote books about teaching them. It is totally doable. Even a smallest country can make biotech products.
So it's that accessible?
Absolutely.
And what do you need for it? Like expertise, equipment?
Well, I think the basic biotech expertise is very fundamental.
Okay.
There's a chemistry involved, there is a physics involved, and engineering involved. And most countries have the manpower available. It's not really, but somehow all the press, literature make it look like such a big deal that most people didn't even want to try it out.
Oh, really?
So my goal has been to break all those misconceptions, show it, this is how it can be done.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, because when I first heard, the term biotech, I thought, oh, this is some high tech, some only like the R&D companies at these big pharma are like doing it and everything. So thank you for clearing that up. And what do you see this? Do you think this is doable? Like, will this be the trend in the future? Like, will small countries be able to, develop their biotech industry?
Yeah. So I think there will be two parts to it. Okay. One part is, I'm going to make a specific example. Let's say Uzbekistan developed the industry.
Okay.
Okay. Your cost will be much lower than what it is for most of the Western produced products. And you start supplying it to the countries who are less capable of doing it.
Okay.
And there will always be those countries, not because of the complexity of technology, but when you are poor, okay, you have no resources. You talked about manpower.
Yes.
Manpower will be the biggest hurdle. Okay, who can do it? Okay. And I think Uzbekistan is way ahead of this game.
Right.
There are many countries, I'll give you one example. India did a fantastic job. India is exporting billions of dollars.
Yeah.
And again, 10, 20, 30 years ago, their resources were not close to what even you have today. But there was a belief in it that we can do it, and manpower. So not every country will or should produce them. But do you have access to it? That's the main thing. Right now, they don't have access to it except the most expensive products. Once the countries like Uzbekistan and others cut into picture and start supplying,
yes,
the supply chain will take care of it.
All right.
And ideally, they could produce themselves. But given the fact that there are hundreds of products to be made,
Yeah.
I think there's always going to be a quid pro quo. Okay, you can bring some and make some. Okay. But every patient should have it.
All right. So you talked about Uzbekistan, how we can do it. Like, what do you think? Like, how much time does Uzbekistan need, and like, what does it need specifically in order to do this?
Okay. So this is one area where I have some experience also. If you start everything from scratch, okay, it may take 3-4 years to get rolling. Okay. But in my opinion, now you don't have to do that. Okay. So there is a development part, which takes a little longer.
Okay.
But you can have a tech transfer, so it's not, so that there's no development need. You're already getting a proven process, tech turnkey process they call it.
All right. But some people say that learning for yourself is better than getting
Absolutely, it's better. Okay, but getting in there first is also the best.
Okay.
You will have plenty of time to learn. I'm telling you this, okay? If you say that let me take 5 years to develop the product, yes, you can develop it. But my suggestion is get the product out, have the resources. Once you have resources, you can bring in manpower, and you can then start doing it on your own. But you have to break that grail somewhere and start getting into commercial production of biological drugs.
All right, okay. That's good to know. So, how many companies do you think in Uzbekistan are ready to take that step?
Let me just tell you this, okay, that there are only few countries, okay, where companies have come up. Korea is one of them, of course, Japan is there. I'm not talking about SRA countries, they all have it. In the developing world, I think there has been a big hesitation. Bangladesh is doing it now, fully.
Oh.
Okay, I had the privilege of helping them out. India, of course, is doing it. None of these Middle Eastern countries have taken a role in it. Okay. And Egypt is doing it. Egypt is doing it, yeah. Of course, countries like Singapore I don't count because they are already developed countries.
Yeah.
It is not very widely, no one is doing it in lower Africa. I mean, Egypt is in Africa, but other than that, there's a billion population there,
Yes.
totally deprived of everything.
An untapped market, right?
Yeah. So I think it's not as many as I would like to see because of this misconception that it is impossible to do. But when a company starts to jump in, you know what's going to happen?
What?
Then they would all get in there, because it's called a herd mentality.
Yes.
I don't know what herd mentality you understand. I have seen it actually physically.
Me too.
I saw it in Africa. They all go in one direction.
Yeah. Someone just has to start,
Yes.
in the direction.
Leadership.
Yes, I agree with you. So earlier you talked about SRA. Can you explain what that is for people who don't know?
So stringent regulatory authority is a term coined by WHO.
Okay.
Essentially, it's all EMA countries, US, and countries like Australia, Japan, Canada, where the regulatory is stringent. Okay. So, what WHO says is a very interesting recommendation. If you can get an approval from a SRA for your manufacturing. Why is that? Because this will then give you the opportunity to sell into many countries. Almost all countries in the world, which is a big commercial advantage you can get. The difference between SRA and non-SRA is not much at all. Again, this is like the misconceptions about biotech. I don't want to give you the names who does it, but there is a lot of misconceptions spread out to keep you out of it. And again, let me give you an example. If in Uzbekistan, 1, 2, 3 companies get the SRA approval, they will all run into it. Everybody will do it.
So it's not hard to get?
Not at all. What I'm saying is that it's all matter of planning, a matter of documentation. There is no difference, And I think this is where, in my opinion, your pharma forum that you have can be very helpful. They may be hesitant, not understanding. You can provide them the help. Let them get it done.
All right. Because I think there's a misconception, like to get an FDA approved and everything, like they really have stringent requirements that it's really hard for developing countries like Uzbekistan, companies that, do manufacture medication, drugs like that. It's hard to get FDA approval. Like, it's nice to hear that it's not like, I think this is maybe a misconception and maybe something larger than life myth, that perpetuates.
I think it's a misconception that is embedded internationally. There are dozens of companies in India approved to sell in US. No issue at all. Europe has boatload of companies, smaller countries approved it. You can read about it, you can think about it, but I would say just go and do it yourself, and you find out. And that teaching, your association can do a good job.
All right. Well, in order to do it, you talked about getting transfer technology in order to manufacture these biotech products. But if we do that, wouldn't there be an issue of IP? If
Very
it's
good
only
point. So first of all, we are not talking about going into new drugs. You should not do that. You only go into biosimilars or those drugs that have already. And of the biosimilars, any biosimilar has already been approved, and there are dozens of them, have no IP issue, and they're all very critical. So I would say, don't worry about IP. Start with an biosimilar has been approved, so you can do it. And if need be, I can advise you that your president has the right to waive IP.
Is for any company or for just state-owned?
For any company.
Any company?
It's their right to do that.
Wow. All right.
But people, you see, this concept is not widely advertised either. But it's part of the law. I'm a patent lawyer. I wish more people will go ahead, and invoke this. The reason they don't like to do it is because of the politics. Okay?
Yes.
All right.
That is a fact.
But if you have something which is life-saving, I'll give you one good example. Very good example. HIV, AIDS drugs. They're approved in US, drugs, not the biologics. India made them all.
Okay.
And then they sued them to stop it. Okay. And then even the World Court overruled it, said, yeah, no, they should be allowed to do it. It's for humanitarian cause.
Yes.
So, these are the kinds of misconceptions which are bred very widely, okay? And I will be more than happy to take all questions from you in writing, which product to make, when to make. In my opinion, you are ready to make your product today.
Oh, wow.
Not tomorrow, today.
Right?
You just have to commit to it, say, yes, I want to be there. Listen to nobody else who can say, well, this is high-tech. It's not high-tech.
So you've been to Uzbekistan. This is based on your experience of what you've seen in Uzbekistan, right?
Yes.
All right. This is not some just hopeful thinking now. All right. I think that will be very interesting for people who will be seeing this podcast. So, we were talking about you were talking about biosimilars. Start with that. And I believe you coined the term, right?
Yes, well, because there was no better term. And at the first, there was, every agency had different word, okay? Now they're all coming down to, everybody calls them biosimilar.
What is it? Can you explain?
So, very good point. Why I coined this word, okay? Like in India, they call similar biologics. That's wrong. Biosimilar means it's a biologic product that happens to be similar.
Okay.
The big difference. It's not a product which is similar first. Biological products are never similar. Even the reference product is always coming out different every batch by batch. It's a biological that is similar, not identical. Not a similar product that happens to be biological. Okay? I mean, that was my logic which took the root. Okay?
I think that makes sense.
No, you have to understand that this whole concept in mind, that I'm looking at two things, and is it same as this or it is not? Okay. When you are used to chemicals, there's no problem. You're 100% same. Even the reference product, batch by batch, they're different. But how far difference there can be, okay? That was the challenge, okay, that had to be brought in. So biosimilars, I think I will propose a list of biosimilars you can make today. Provide you all the technology you need. Even start the development today in your lab while your manufacturing area is being qualified. Because you can make anything you want, as long as it's not going into humans, so it doesn't have to be GMP. So at least you have everything on hand.
Yeah.
And it is this kind of commitment that requires that to deliver what I'm hoping you will be able to do it soon.
You visited, the cluster that is being built right now, that territory that the government has so graciously provided for the development of the pharmaceutical industry. You've been there,
Yes.
And what can you tell about how that plays a role in what you're saying, how Uzbekistan can develop, its biotechnology industry?
So for any technology, it's always a multidisciplines. Okay.
Yes.
What does biotech product like biosimilar require? They require engineers, they require statisticians, they require, chemists. And it's when you have a cluster, and I'll give you a good example, okay? In US, okay, New Jersey is the pharma cluster. Every company, most of them are there.
When was it established there?
Oh, about more than 100 years ago.
Wow.
So why? The reason is this, okay? If I set up my company in New Jersey, I will have no problem hiring somebody from next door or here or there, okay? So people just move around like, having piece of cake, okay? Same thing, the biotech unit is in San Diego now, okay? And the reason they do that is precisely that, okay? It's the manpower availability. Okay? So when you go out and in your cluster, okay, you're providing manpower of all levels. Okay? You have a university training them, and I hope the training will be based on what is the needed qualification. So it's like saying working backwards. Okay, I need somebody to do this, this, this. Okay, what do I need a course to make sure the person is qualified? So it's a multidisciplinary approach, okay, which will bring biosimilars and biotech is just a very small part. There's some bigger things you can bring in. The next wave is mRNA. I was so happy to see your genomics has developed a vaccine for COVID in a tomato. I think, you know what, that I want them to take full advantage of it, which they're not doing it right now. When advantage means anything you have a novel, okay, where is the value? The value is not in around you or your countries. Nobody will pay for that. You go to the West, get it patented there first time. Europe, so let's say if you file in US, then you have 24 months to file in Europe. And I think this is let's have this culture that when you have something new, you file a patent. You may not get the patent, but at least you have covered it in case you do. So that will be one recommendation I have, And your forum can provide that support. You see, these companies may not know how to get about. You can have GMP support, you can have IP support, you can have consulting if they have any specific technology they want to bring. So you could be the mother of providing them all the assets they need.
The role of the cluster, you think it's critical because this kind of cluster, like we haven't seen it before. For those who don't know, there's going to be, the state regulatory body, our agency is going to be there, higher educational institutions, laboratories, clinical research centers, manufacturers, residential areas, everything. So it's going to have everything. It's even going to have a business center, So you think that, putting all of those together, components into one place, a hub of sorts, is that like the way to go? Are we on the right track?
There's no doubt about it, but I would like you to be flexible. The end point, and I think I said so many times, the end point should be something very productive. And what is productive? Okay, is it does it bring additional treatment? Does it bring a lot additional financing to the country? Okay. Yes. If you become 10 times richer, a lot of sins go away. Okay. And I always tell developing countries, you make money. Okay. So let's say when you have companies coming here and they have a specific need, they may not be qualified how to get this. I think your cluster should be flexible enough to go backwards, okay? Instead of going top down, this is the services I give, use it. What do you need?
Bottom down, right?
That is going to make it a lot more productive and effective. What are the needs? And again, before you get to the needs, what is the goal? Why are you doing it? So I think that flexibility always must be maintained. So you can bring in more novel services, approaches, enlightenment. One things that always work, I like you to have a seminar program. You bring in scientists, you bring in people.
Definitely.
Mental, I think scrubbing is very important, okay? And like you had it done today, okay, I think it was good, okay? But have a training program for GMP training, You bring in some experts, they have a 2 weeks program for training.
All right.
And if you can afford to pay for it, many more will join. So I think it's up to you how you want to deliver.
All right. Well, thank you for your time, Dr. Niazi. Our time's coming at an end.
Sure.
It was very fascinating to talk to you. I think this has been enlightening for a lot of people who will see this. And thank you for sharing your expertise so freely and for taking the time to do it.
I'm very happy to be here and very happy. My emotion, motion, passion to help, okay, has many roots. I want it to succeed.
Okay. Thank you. We'll talk later then.